Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to introduce our topic, 8 Embarrassing Ways Men Simp. You're losing respect. In this presentation, we'll explore some common behaviors that can undermine a man's credibility and respect. We'll look at each way men might be unwittingly compromising themselves and discuss how to avoid these pitfalls. So, let's dive in and discover how to maintain confidence and respect in our relationships. Today, I want to talk about the subtle sabotage of self-worth that many men might not even realize they're doing. You see, most men don't recognize the quiet ways they can unintentionally undermine attraction, respect, and ultimately their own self-esteem. There's a common misconception that being generous, accommodating, and always available makes you a good man. But in reality, these behaviors can sometimes have the opposite effect. Jessica O.S. explains this really clearly. Being kind isn't the same as being submissive. It's important to understand that a simp isn't just a man who's nice. It's a man who gives his power, his time, and his resources to a woman who hasn't earned them. Now, this isn't about hatting women or rejecting romance. It's about something much more fundamental: setting boundaries, maintaining self-respect, and embracing masculine polarity. These are the traits that foster genuine attraction, rather than feelings of pity or convenience. So today, we're going to analyze the 8 signs of simping through the lens of psychology, self-worth, and emotional dynamics. Understanding these signs can help us recognize when we might be sabotaging our own attractiveness and relationships, and how to correct that. When we see a man constantly spending money, whether it's on dates, gifts, or giving a lot of attention, without any real emotional connection, it's important to understand what's really going on. This isn't true generosity. Instead, it's often a way of trying to buy affection. This behavior is rooted in what I call approval-seeking psychology. The man subconsciously believes that if he invests financially, he'll gain emotional security. But here's the thing: women don't fall in love with men who try to purchase validation. What they really want is genuine connection and mutual respect. When a man tries to buy his way into love, it can actually backfire. Women may initially appreciate the gestures, but over time, they start feeling entitled to those benefits, and worse, they lose respect. Respect is the foundation of attraction. A high-value man understands that real investment in a relationship comes after commitment, not before. He doesn't bribe his way into a woman's affection. Instead, he builds trust and connection first, then invests. The key takeaway here is that generosity without boundaries can be dangerous. It can lead to exploitation rather than attraction. True value comes from authentic connection, not from trying to buy your way in. Let's talk about apologizing for things that aren't really your fault. Sometimes, men over-apologize as a way to maintain harmony, but in reality, this is emotional submission. Saying sorry constantly to avoid conflict might seem harmless, but it actually signals surrendering leadership rather than demonstrating true empathy. This behavior often comes from conflict anxiety, the fear of rejection or losing connection if you stand your ground. But here, the key: women tend to respect men who stay calm and grounded, even when emotions are high. Owning your truth is a powerful alternative. When you stand firm and express your genuine feelings without begging for forgiveness, you're showing that your value isn't dependent on her approval. Remember, real respect in a relationship comes from calm firmness, not endless appeasement. It's about being confident enough to be authentic, even in challenging moments. That's how you build trust and deepen connection. When it comes to defending her when she's clearly wrong, it's important to understand what true accountability looks like. If a man defends his woman's toxic or disrespectful behavior, he's not showing loyalty. He's actually being manipulated by emotional dependency. When you cover her faults just to keep the peace, you're sending a subconscious message that she can do anything without consequences, and you'll stay regardless. That's not protection, that's self-erasure. Healthy love is about accountability, not blind defense. A man needs to be strong enough to say, "That's not okay," even if it risks some temporary disapproval. And if you can't confront disrespect, you really can't lead the relationship. Leadership means setting boundaries and holding both partners accountable. So remember, true strength in love involves honesty and accountability. It's about building respect, not eroding it. When she starts to pull away, it's natural to feel the urge to chase, to double text, call repeatedly, or beg for reassurance. But here, the key. That instinct to chase actually signals you've already lost the dynamic. It's a clear sign of scarcity thinking, driven by the fear that she's your only chance at love. And here's the truth: attraction diminishes the moment she senses desperation. So, what's the better approach? High-value men respond to emotional distance with composure. Instead of chasing, they mirror her energy, stay purposeful, and let space do the talking. Women test men to see if they'll lose control under pressure. The men who stay centered, who remain calm and detached, pass that test. Remember, neediness repels, but emotional detachment, staying calm and confident, actually attracts her. That's the real secret to maintaining and even increasing her interest when she starts to pull away. So on this slide, we're talking about the importance of letting her control the relationship narrative. If she's the one deciding when you're exclusive, when you meet, and how serious things get, while you're just waiting for her to make those decisions, you're not truly in a relationship. You're actually in submission mode. Women are naturally attracted to men who have direction, men who define boundaries and take initiative. When a man gives up the lead, she might enjoy the power in the moment, but over time, she'll actually lose emotional attraction. It's important to understand that leadership doesn't mean dominance. It's about providing clarity. A man with standards clearly states, "This is what I'm looking for. If you're not on the same page, that's okay, but I won't waste my time." Because if you don't define the story yourself, she will. And she might write a narrative that doesn't include you at all. So, taking the lead and setting the tone is crucial in maintaining control and attraction in the relationship. Let's talk about being afraid to say no. Often, we confuse compliance with kindness. Saying yes to her requests for time, money, or attention all the time might seem nice, but really, it's more about compliance. It's about avoiding conflict or disapproval, not genuine kindness. This kind of fawning behavior is actually a trauma response. It's a way of overpleasing to avoid abandonment or rejection. But here's the thing: if a man never says no, he becomes predictable and, ultimately, powerless. Without boundaries, he loses his sense of self and his ability to lead. Women often test men by asking for favors or making small, unreasonable requests. It's not out of malice, it's instinctive. They want to see if he has boundaries, if he can say no respectfully and stand his ground. When a man does that, he earns her genuine respect and admiration. On the flip side, a man who lacks boundaries risks becoming a servant rather than a true partner. Boundaries aren't just about protecting yourself. They're about creating a healthy, balanced relationship where respect flows both ways. So, remember, saying no when needed is a sign of strength, not weakness, and it's essential for maintaining your integrity and your partnership. Now, let's talk about sacrificing masculinity to keep her. This is arguably the most dangerous form of simping because it happens so gradually. A man might start giving up his hobbies, his mission, even his friendships, piece by piece, just to maintain her affection. Over time, this leads to emotional domestication, where he's no longer the man he once was. At first, she may appreciate the attention, but what often happens next is what psychologists call polarity collapse. That's when the masculine energy that initially attracted her begins to fade. Women are naturally drawn to men who have direction, purpose, and independence, not men who orbit around them like satellites. When you abandon yourself just to keep her, you risk becoming emotionally invisible. If she loved your strength, why would you destroy it just to hold on? Remember, genuine attraction stems from your core masculinity, not from self-neglect. Now, moving on to the next point, putting her above yourself every time. The ultimate form of simping is self-abandonment. That's when you prioritize her comfort so much that you compromise your dignity, your purpose, and your peace. Rearranging your entire life around her whims teaches her that your time is disposable. But here's the paradox: This doesn't make her feel cherished. Instead, it erodes her respect for you. A healthy relationship is rooted in mutual prioritization, not one-sided sacrifice. When a woman knows that her man values himself as much as he values her, she feels safe and genuinely attracted. And let's be clear, love without self-respect isn't true devotion. It's dependency, and dependency isn't sustainable or healthy for either of you. Let's wrap up with the key takeaway. Respect is earned by standing tall. A simp isn't simply someone who shows affection, kindness, or generosity. It's more about losing your masculine boundaries. When a man sacrifices his self-respect, his purpose, and his independence just to win love, he's not inspiring admiration. He's actually triggering pity and detachment. True attraction, on the other hand, comes from emotional sovereignty, being able to love deeply while still maintaining your sense of self. Remember what Jessica O.S. reminds us. A simp is a man who gives up his power for a woman who hasn't earned it. Respect isn't something that's handed out to the man who bends the most. It's earned by the man who stands tall, even when it's tough. If you recognize these patterns in yourself, know that it's not too late to change. Reclaim your focus, your purpose, and your standards. Because when a man respects himself, the world and the woman who's truly meant for him will follow naturally.